His Excellency Dr. H.M. Imam Basuki, MSc, FSAI, AAIJ, CPIE, QIP, AMRP, and I'm my Executive Director. Her Excellency Professor Dr. E.S. Margianti, SAMM, Director of Universitas Gunadarma. The honorable speakers and panelists, Ing Jakub Persik, PhD from Slovak University of Agriculture, Nitra, Slovakia, Engineer Martin Enter from Novo Language, Netherlands, Mrs. Dian Budiani, the Chief Operation Officer of PT Prudential Life Assurance, Dr. Patricia Hermita, MSc, MECom from Universitas Gunadarma, Gideon Mizenui, PhD from Borås University, Sweden, Dr. Klaas Hakan Alm from Borås University, Sweden, Dr. HSM Widodo, MNSC, the President Director of PT Asuransi Bintang Tbk, Dr. Rudy Sohatril, Universitas Gunadarma, and Dr. Ikhwan Suidi from Universitas Gunadarma. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the AAMAI International Webinar 2020. Before we go further, I would like to kindly remind you that your active participation is important throughout the sessions. However, we will have everyone on mute to avoid background noises that might distract you from listening to the webinar. Throughout the presentation, someone will be managing the Zoom application functionality. Therefore, you can use the raise hand icon on the participants menu to indicate that you have questions during the Q&A sessions. We would like also to inform you that the webinar is also broadcasted through the channel 32 on digital TV, the UGTV digital mobile applications, which is available on Apple Store and Google Play Store, and live streaming at www.tv.gunadarma.ac.id and www.ugtv.co.id. Before we get started, we would like to express our gratitude to our sponsors, PT Maskapai Reasuransi Indonesia, PT Asuransi Bangun Askrida, PT Asuransi Astra Buana, PT Asuransi Bintang, PT Asuransi Jiwa Reliance Indonesia, PT Asuransi Jasa Raharja Putra, PT Reasuransi My Part Indonesia, PT Tugu Reasuransi Indonesia, PT Asuransi Jasindo, PT Asuransi Perisai Listrik Nasional, dan PT Asuransi Reliance Indonesia. The theme for today's webinar is Excellent Services in the New Normal. There are a total of 365 participants joining our webinar, and this webinar is to bring together academicians, researchers, practitioners to share knowledge and to explore the opportunities in the field of insurance studies. Now, let's start our sessions by listening to the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I would like to invite Dr. H.M. Imam Basuki, MSc, FSAI, AAIJ, JPIA, QIP, AMRP, the Executive Director of AAMAI, to represent the Chairman of the Board of Directors of AAMAI to deliver the welcome speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. H.M. Imam Basuki, MSc, FSAI, AAIJ, JPIA, QIP, AMRP.
Dear Mr. Reswanandi, Kepala Eksekutif Pengawas IKNB OJK Republik Indonesia, Mrs. Margianti, Rector of Gunadarma of University, speakers, panelists, moderator, and participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On this happy and grateful day, we shall pray or praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for His mercy and His kindness to give strength. We can join an international seminar held by Indonesian Institute or AAMAI and Gunadarma University. As committee, we would like to say thank you to all of the speakers, panelists, moderators, and participants to attend our invitation. As we know, COVID-19 pandemic give impact to the insurance industry in Indonesia, which is lowering the premium income growth in aggregate compared to the last year. Vaccine for COVID-19 is not yet found, so we can not predict when this pandemic are going to end, which will decrease premium income growth even further due to physical distinction, and also because of division of consumer purchasing power. Our government states that the reactivation of business activity under health protocol which made new era for insurance industry, so that insurance industry should apply price risk management to survive and also competitive. Change in business process will affect to the effectiveness and efficiency in the work activity to expand, control. Insurance business process start to apply information technology system, so they keep a complete and earn customer trust. Regulation support is also needed to make sure insurance business process by digital can work smoothly, and so insurance industry can survive and complete. Based on previous description, so seminar topic is excellent service in the new normal, with invite competent speakers and panelists from academics sector as well as insurance industry, practitioner, both local and international. Second, how important today's topic, AAMAI board and Gunadarma University decide to invite insurance practitioner to join in the seminar, and also AAMAI members, especially competence certification holder from Badan Nasional Sertifikasi Profesi (BNSP). The seminar is part of the Continuing Professional Development Program or CPD to earn point for certification program. With CPD program, we expect to all of the AAMAI members can develop their knowledge in insurance industry. We can also play another seminar to give another interesting topic with related to insurance practical and social and science in Indonesia. We hope all of today participants can attend all the session, and we hope all the participants can obtain new knowledge and also insights with useful and relevant to insurance industry. As our last word, on behalf of the board of AAMAI, would like to say thank you to Gunadarma University, speakers, panelists, moderator, and everyone which give support and pray to AAMAI so that our hope and wishes to advance and develop profitability in insurance industry achieve. Thank you. Wabillahi tauhid wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. H.M. Imam Basuki, MSc, FSAI, AAIJ, CPIE, QIP, AMFP for the speech. Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we are now inviting Professor Dr. A.S. Margianti, SAMM, Director of Universitas Gunadarma, to deliver her welcome speech and to formally open the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. A.S. Margianti, SAMM.
Thank you, Mrs. Moderator, Mrs. MC. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang saya hormati Bapak Dr. Imam, Eksekutif Direktur dari AAMAI, Bapak-bapak, Ibu-ibu para pembicara, Honorable and distinguished speaker from Sweden, from Slovak, and as well from Netherlands. Bapak-bapak, ibu-ibu para peserta seminar, dan para hadirin yang berada pada ruangan Zoom ini. Selamat siang, good afternoon, also good morning for Slovak and Sweden. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Pertama tentunya puji syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, yang atas perkenannya lah kita bersama-sama dapat berada di ruangan ini untuk melaksanakan webinar yang dilakukan dalam rangka continuing development process dari AAMAI bekerja sama dengan Universitas Gunadarma. Saya selaku Rektor Universitas Gunadarma juga atas nama segenap keluarga besar Universitas Gunadarma mengucapkan selamat dan ucapan terima kasih juga atas kepercayaan dan kerjasama yang telah kita lakukan untuk kesekian kalinya pada berbagai kegiatan. Semoga apa yang kita lakukan sesuai dengan situasi yang ada saat ini harus kita siasati dalam menghadapi COVID sehingga dilakukan secara webinar dapat bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Bapak-bapak, ibu dan para hadirin sekalian, tadi disampaikan bahwa AAMAI dengan Gunadarma sudah melakukan berbagai kegiatan dan ke depan juga akan melakukan lagi berbagai kegiatan yang lain. Untuk itu saya menyambut baik karena ini juga memang merupakan kegiatan dari pengabdian masyarakat. Dan kepada para partisipan saya mengharapkan dapat mengambil manfaat yang besar, nanti akan dikembangkan ataupun akan dieksplor bagaimana neuromarketing, bagaimana juga peranan IT maupun juga pengalaman para praktisi dunia asuransi. Jadi ini merupakan kancah untuk kita lebih belajar lebih banyak. Jadi saya berharap Bapak-bapak dan Ibu sekalian para partisipan dapat mengambil manfaat yang maksimum dari kegiatan ini. Kemudian tidak lupa tentunya kepada para sponsor. Saya tadi disebutkan ada 11 sponsor. Alhamdulillah, terima kasih. Insya Allah sponsorship yang diberikan akan bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, selamat untuk kita semua telah berhasil melaksanakan acara ini dan tentu saja akan harus tetap melaksanakannya sampai selesai. Dan kemudian untuk itu mohon izin untuk menyapa sekilas para pembicara yang kebetulan mungkin tidak terlalu paham bahasa Indonesia ini. Mr. Hakan, Mr. Gideon, Mr. Mr. Hakan, Mr. Gideon, and then also Mr. Martin, and another one is Jacob, of course. Good morning and also good afternoon for some of you. It is nice to meet you again. Thank you very much for your availability to this session. Yeah, I'm sorry. We are sorry that this time we are not able to meet each other face to face, but surely while the time is when we have time, possibility in the better situation after COVID, we can meet each other face to face. So in this occasion, I like to express my gratitude, also sincere thank you very much for your participation, and also hope that we can meet again in other occasion, because the AAMAI and Gunadarma always used to be in cooperation for several activities in the coming future. So thank you very much. Hope that you always health, and also please take care of yourself to be always healthy. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, terima kasih atas semua perhatian yang ada, terima kasih atas keikutsertaan, dan kalau nanti ada hal-hal yang kurang sempurna karena kita melakukannya dengan daring, mohon dimaafkan. Sudah diupayakan berbagai upaya untuk mengatasinya, tapi ya moga bismillah kita akan berjalan dengan baik. Dan dengan izin Bapak-Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, dan dengan mengucap bismillahirrahmanirrahim, webinar Excellent Service in the New Normal secara resmi saya buka. Semoga Tuhan Yang Maha Esa selalu bersama kita, dan semoga kita dapat manfaat yang maksimum dari kegiatannya. Sekian, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Dr. A.S. Margianti, SAMM, for the speech and for formally opening this webinar. Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the opening ceremony processions. We are now continuing our program to the next agenda, which is the presentations and discussions by the panelists. This agenda consisting of two segments. The segments will be hosted by Dr. Ikhwan Suyudi. He has been ready in the UGTV studio along with the panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Ikhwan Suyudi.
Thank you very much, Ibu Dr. Asti Darmayanti, for the opportunity. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this remarkable webinar, which is held by AAMAI in collaboration with Universitas Gunadarma. I'm honored to be the moderator of this interactive webinar, which is entitled AAMAI International Webinar Excellent Service in the New Normal. This webinar have two segments. Before we start, the first segment, we have two speakers, Dr. Jacob Percik from Sweden and Dr. Martijn Enter from Netherlands. And also, we have two beautiful panelists here in our studio, Dr. Dian Budiani, welcome to the studio, and Dr. Matrisa Hermita. How are you, Ibu?
Thank you, fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, allow me to read the agenda of today's webinar. The webinar will be divided into two segments. The first segment will be started the presentation of the speakers from abroad via Zoom. And second, feedback from panelists. And at the end of the segment, there will be Q&A session from participants. We will be glad if you can participate in a Q&A session for the participants by clicking the raise hand feature in your computer screen or on your gadget screen. You may deliver the question in English or in Bahasa. And if you miss anything, don't worry. The recorded version of this discussion is also available. Now, without further ado, We will turn the time over to our first speaker, Dr. Jacob Bercik from Slovakia. However, I would like to read his brief CV verse. Dr. Jacob Bercik is an assistant professor at the Department of Marketing and Trade, Faculty of Economics and Management, Slovak University of Agriculture in Nitra. He is also CEO of University Startup AAMAI Europe. He got his PhD from Faculty of Economics and Management, Slovak University of Agriculture in Nitra, Slovakia. Dr. Jacob Bercik is going to deliver his presentation on neuromarketing in 20 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Jacob Bercik.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will share my presentation. I hope you can see my presentation.
Yes, you can see your PowerPoint slide.
Okay, so good afternoon again. My name is Jakub Bercik. I work as an assistant professor at the Department of Marketing and Trade, Slovak University of Agriculture in Nitra, Slovakia. I am also the director of the Laboratory of Consumer Studies. My research profilation is neuromarketing, consumer neuroscience, marketing research, and e-commerce. Neuromarketing is an interdisciplinary field which combines economy, psychology, neuroscience, and IT technology. There are two terms, but both mean the same. Neuromarketing is more typical for business, and consumer neuroscience is more typical for academic area. This type of research can be done in laboratory and, of course, in real conditions. During my lessons, I will explain the importance of neuromarketing on ICE ideology. The part which is about the C represents the conscious reactions which are connected with traditional research methods. A much larger part of ICE is which is underwater, represent unconscious reactions connected with neuromarketing. Since we know that making decisions process depends more on unconscious level, it is necessary to implement in market research tools of neuromarketing. Modern psychology states that 300 milliseconds is the gateway to conscious. That means that everything that happens until this time is not perceived on the conscious level in a human brain. It is not surprising that 90% of decisions are made on unconscious levels, which is the reason for the necessity of involving innovative research methods. Now, I would like to show you video how we start with neuromarketing research in Slovak conditions. Maybe you are asking yourself, why is consumer neuroscience or neuromarketing so important? The answer is very simple. On the market, there are many fails of traditional research methods. Many times, traditional methods like questionnaires, focus groups, provide irrelevant information because of people don't have time to properly think about the research questions. Sometimes they don't understand the questions. They don't truthfully want to answer, for example, in case of sensitive issues. Many questions cannot be truthfully answered. For example, as you can see, company Tropicana has spent 30% turnover because they have changed their package according to traditional research methods focus group. They changed the legendary orange with straw on package to glasses with orange juice. Maybe eye tracking would be more effective for them because they would know how people can identify a new package of orange juice. Another example, Coca-Cola company, they have asked people in questionnaire if they would prefer a new product with name New Coke. Everyone has said yes, but after 1 year they had to withdraw it from the market because nobody buy it. Another examples, for example, PayPal as well known example of how they use neuromarketing in the financial sector is the company PayPal, which is examining how people react on selected words which they wanted to use in their market campaigns. They estimate that people will consider as the most important the word safety. Since we are talking about the finances, but the EEG device showed that the importance of words such as a quick and comfortable was higher. We have to emphasize that this research has been carried before the pandemic because today the word safety is the most often used in marketing campaigns of all companies. Another example, Starbucks. Starbucks has used electroencephalography to determine the price of their products such as coffee. We see, or we can see on the picture, that the highest brain reactions in both hemispheres was for the price €2.40. EEG research showed that the human brain associated a higher value emotional feedback for wine that was more expensive, despite the people drank the same wine. In this type of research, we need to confirmation of each respondent about his personal data processing. Obtained data have to be very strictly protected. On the market, there are many companies which provide these types of research without consultations with professionals from given areas. From my point of view, we can divide neuromarketing methods on two big groups. First are biometric methods, and second are neuroimaging methods. Biometric can be split on autonomic and somatic. Somatic methods can be influenced by people, but autonomic cannot. For example, if someone knows that his or her eyes are monitored, he or she can change visual preference. In case of neuroimaging methods, we can divide them on electric and blood flow measures. Measuring blood flow needs complicated technology, so in our country, we work only with electrical, typically electroencephalography. In research, the best solution is a combination not only to traditional but also neuromarketing research. At the same time, in case of neuromarketing research, it is necessary to combine two methods. For example, when we use EEG, we can detect participant emotions by different stimulus, and with eye tracking, we can see where the participant is looking at. Now I would like to show you a video how we can do the test of bank mobile app. Coronavirus has impacted the whole financial sector. Banks and insurance companies have changed their strategy of services they offer. Most of them has moved to the online environment, and the development of news apps was done accordingly, despite that it is necessary to test these apps, and this qualitative test must be carried out even in these unprecedented times. Of course, these studies are done in accordance with hygienic standards, excepting using face reading when the participant's face is not covered. For example, in Slovakia, our Slovak bank is developing a mobile bank app which will offer the options to get a loan in a fractions of the time, like it would take you to pay with the card. In general, we can conclude that all financial institutions are developing or creating solutions that motivate people to do as much from home as possible without visiting the bank branches or office. Now you can see some outputs from this type of research. You can see, for example, heat maps. Heat maps is output from eye tracking. Frustrations map, according to participant emotions, you can detect some areas which are more frustrating for participants. And the last one is excitement map. You can detect some parts from applications with higher levels of excitement, and of course you can see the brain activity, how human brain react on these type of applications. Now I would like to show you a video how we can test ads, for example, in laboratory condition. Unfortunately, it is in Slovak language, but for you it's very interesting to see how participants react. And we have used two biometric methods, fixed eye tracking and face reading. In case of visual attentions, you can see fixations dots, and in case of face reading, you can see the graph of valence and emotions attentions. Positive values means positive emotions. Here you can see the positive values. In the graph, negative values means a lower level of emotional attentions during ad stimuli. Now I would like to tell you a few words about our lab of consumer studies, because it is a unique space for testing financial products, for example, apps, bank and insurance platforms, marketing strategy, and many more. The laboratory consists of the main room and the control room. The main room serves for marketing, management, and economic research using biometric and neuroimaging devices. It consists of 4 parts: simulated sales area for detailed examinations of the purchasing process and decision making, multifunctional sensory table with implicit feedback retrieval for examining the perceptions of products, making some strategy or promotional materials, aroma diffuser for studying the impact of aromas of human perceptions and preferences, and the universal space for the research of ads, websites, and online applications. In our laboratory, we have 2 big projects. One is our domestic project, and second is an international project. These projects are connected with using of consumer neuroscience in aromacology, and we try to find out how people react on different types of aromatizations. For example, in some insurance company and bank branches too. On this slide, you can see some practical example from real testing. Maybe another area like bank branches, we have tested different flavors of biscuits, cocoa milk, peanuts, coconut, domestic and foraged tomatoes, and different aromas in special aroma box, because as you know, we are from Slovak University of Agriculture, so agriculture is very important for us too. The laboratory also includes 2 technologies for research in real conditions, which are the subject to European patent applications. The first technology for collecting neuromarketing data, which may be in the form of shopping cart, usable wherever it is natural to move with the shopping cart, or the special research bed which is used for testing, for example, in bank branches and other insurance companies. First technology is solutions for gathering neuromarketing data, and it is combination services which are available on the market, like eye tracking, electroencephalography with services which are not available in one set, live monitoring of trajectory of movement, timing, factors of environment, light, for example, like lighting, sound, air quality. Now, please look at this movie. It shows the process how our technology can be used in practice in the bank sector. And before, I would like to show you a video how it works in very detailed explanations, and then I will show you the practice.
This is Bob. Bob's just a regular customer who comes to your shop. However, he often overlooks special offers while wandering about the shop and ends up leaving with only a small purchase inside his bag. If we could only look into Bob's head, we would know how he feels and how characteristics inside the shop influences the way he shops. We finally know. With this technology, not only do we know where Bob is and what he's checking out, we can also record the influence of other factors, such as light, noise, sound, color, and temperature inside the shop. The whole idea is very simple. Our team will measure the unique values of the shop setting and subconscious reactions of the customers in real time. After analyzing the data, we'll prepare a detailed report with recommendations on how to simply alter your shop in such a way that Bob feels more comfortable inside the shop, to notice the products that you want to sell, and to spend more time shopping than looking. In the end, Bob will leave happier with a bag full of purchases he's bought. And not just Bob, but Lucy, Frank, and Fred as well.
So now, as I mentioned before, I would like to show you a video from the practice. The main idea of the research was to find out how people react on humanoid robot paper in bank branches. Here we can see some example of outputs based on the movement trajectory. We can identify the least and the most visited sales departments or bank departments. Based on the average speed map, we can identify departments within which the customers move the fastest. The optional speed of movement when the person is able to perceive the merchandising goods is max 0.25 meters per second. Higher speeds may indicate reduced perceptions of displayed goods. Next heat map represents aggregated data denouncing the visual attentions of respondents, especially in terms of the number and length of the time spent eye viewing. The warmer the color, the longer and the greater the amount of consumer views. Fixation does the number in the dots indicates the order. The dots indicates the spend fixations time. Different colors are for particular respondents. And from emotion, for example, frustration map indicates stress or level of concern caused by a stimuli. Higher values may, in same cases, also results from unconscious impact of influences such as environmental factors, for example, lighting, music, and air quality. The map presents the average values for the whole department, and therefore the detailed view of the department is needed to identify specific problems aspects. Thank you for your attentions, and do not hesitate to ask me questions or contact me via email. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thank you very much, Dr. Jacoberczyk, for your stimulating presentation on your research on neuromarketing and also how to attract consumers. Could you please stay there, Dr. Jacoberczyk, until the end of this segment? Ladies and gentlemen, let's proceed to the second speaker, Dr. Martijn Enter from Netherlands. Dr. Martijn Enter is an innovator, entrepreneur, educator. He is currently as a CEO and founder at Novo Learning, Netherlands. And also, he is a founder and partner of a venture capital fund of 20 Technology Fund. Novo Learning offers a fully integrated e-learning solution powered by artificial intelligence technologies. The Novo solution comprises a content design studio, e-learning application, and analytics suite. Dr. Martijn Enter graduated from University of Twente, majoring in management and technology. Today, he is going to deliver his presentation entitled Artificial Intelligence Powered by Human Intelligence in the New Normal. You have 20 minutes to present the material. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Martijn Enter.
Selamat sore, everybody. I want to express my gratitude to the excellences of the AAMAI and of Gunadarma for having me to present. And also thank you everybody for listening to me, all the participants. I hope you're all healthy and also stay healthy. It is a difficult time, but we will get through it. It's everywhere at the moment. I will keep my presentation short. I think to keep it fresh, like 10 to 15 minutes. I'm not a scientist. I just like to express what I experience, especially during these times, and what will change. So I will share my screen. So I named my presentation AI, Artificial Intelligence, powered by high human intelligence. And that will be, or is already, the new normal. So first I will talk about powered by high instead of AI, followed by a few cases of the company of mine, what I see happening during these times, relating to this powered by high, and what it can mean also later for data, for compliance and safety. So let's start with a little fun video. There's no sound with it. This is a video of the company DeepMind that was bought by Google. Already in 2015, they made this. And this is a computer brain that is learning to play a game by itself. It learns the first 10 minutes of this old game. This is a computer mind, so it is not a person helping the computer in this. So the computer is still a bit clumsy. After 2 hours of training, the computer has already learned to be an expert. You see, it's playing fast, and it's training itself through artificial intelligence by training the models. And after 4 hours, it's quite astonishing. You see, in 4 hours, the computer learned to have a strategy even to win this game in the fastest way. So if we see this, and I ask everybody in a way, what do you feel when you see this? What do you feel or think? Especially that this computer already learns in 4 hours this. Think for a moment or feel. And that's what I mean with the human intelligence. So what do you think or feel? I can imagine, I even had it myself, I'm an innovator. But the first time you see the video in the end, you think fun, but it is a little bit scary that this computer thinks this way and goes so fast. Another thing could be, hey, yeah, I know artificial intelligence is here, but how does that benefit me? So what do I do with it? Another thing could be what I usually encounter, does it really work? People prefer real things. And another thing can be, yeah, it's a nice game, but this whole computer, the technology behind it, it is very complex. So too complex for me, goodbye. So what you see is that the AI is developed, but the HI, the human intelligence, is still resisting. And this is a very important part of this area where we are in, and a very interesting area, because sadly, of course, it's in 2020, it is suddenly here, Corona, and it is not nice and it is terrible. But we have to realize in this time that in terrible times and times where there's a threat, common threat, that people will be driven to radically change, and that this change is now, and it is happening. And we don't know, the longer it takes, it will be more radical, the change. Of course, we hope that at the end of the year, the vaccination comes in, and that it will not take too long, but it is already changing. And why is this changing? The human intelligence is accepting now more and more this digitization. Why? Because some of this digitization is also making your life easier while you experience it. And you experience that some of it also actually works. And as you also saw in the neuromarketing just now, people often also relate to a lot of cost savings or price. So we experience that we can do things the same if everybody does it now against a lower price. So it becomes proven. And that is why the human intelligence is in these times accepting it more and more. And it is more powerful for change than the change of the artificial intelligence itself. So some cases of my own experience and in the company, what happened, for example, what we do with at Novo is we make interactive, a full solution to make interactive learning And we use artificial intelligence, for example, to make speech technology where you can train your speaking ability to learn to pronounce English or other languages. Arabic we are also working on. And we use augmented reality to have a fun way of learning. It's a full solution, so we can also analyze everything, report it, track data, and with partners we make ready-to-use courseware. So one case, and I relate to some Indonesian cases, was in 2019. We did a big project with 14 universities from Sumatra to Papua to learn to speak English via using artificial intelligence. And we showed during the end of this big project that the proficiency level increased by more than 20% of the students. Also the students, more than 65% was happy doing this via this solution. But what we experienced was during the second half of 2019, although we had a big success, it wasn't really a lot of sales at that time. And that had to do also a little bit with that this technology is quite new still. And suddenly, during April this year, it started to lift off. A second case is we make with our technology, you can make a digital university press, for example. We can make interactive smart books. And these smart books, you can upload your own media, your own education. And from April, we suddenly started to integrate this in universities. And during this month, we got so busy, and we are digitizing many subjects. We were amazed ourselves about the happiness rate of the students at that time, that they could learn in a fun way and do their subjects in this way at home. So we saved time also of planning of online learning in that sense via video, and we can do it via the interactive book. But it all was pushed in a way by the changing times, by people needing to accept more and more to digitize. Another case is from the Netherlands, and it is more relating also to the insurance industry. So we have a product where we radically change the market. So this product is for safety training, fire safety and first aid. And in the Netherlands, you have to have people in your company that get this certificate and are trained in case of emergencies. What we did, together with a partner, we made it fully digital. So there is no live training anymore, and people can get their certificate online. So I will show you an example of that.
Novo Learning offers an innovative learning solution that helps businesses train their employees in first aid and fire safety. Learn the essentials of life-saving first aid and what to do in case of fire with Novo's EU-compliant courseware. Learners will receive a certificate if they complete the courses. The Novo app enables you to instruct your learners without having to send them to expensive and time-consuming off-site training. They can learn anywhere, at any time, and on any device. Research has shown that many necessary skills of CPR and first aid are forgotten shortly after certification. So that's why the Novo app pushes learners to redo the course every 3 months to renew their certificate. At the same time, you can monitor progress and download reports to demonstrate compliance. This ensures all your learners are always prepared to act accordingly in case of an emergency. So, Novo Learning offers first aid and fire safety training in an efficient, practical, and cost-effective way.
So the same story here. This is quite radical to not do it live, the training, and just do it in a digital way. If you talk about safety and first aid and fire safety. In the beginning, people were quite scared of it, that they thought maybe I need a real training. Maybe that works only better. Although we showed by many results and research that people actually can remember it better if they repeat it, and they can easily repeat it during an online version of the training, so they remember it better. But still, it was new. And since 2 months, 3 months ago, May, April, we saw suddenly the sales lifting off. So people started to use it. And also once they get experience with it, they were communicating with others, and more these sales are going up at the moment. So there's really something changing in consumer behavior, and also employees at companies and management at companies that are now needing almost to accept new ways of digital learning, digital working. And also, we already will now launch these digital courses in Indonesia. So we partnered with Surveyor Indonesia to be able to already launch in September safety and compliance courses via an online learning method with CNovo. So also that suddenly took off quite fast during this period. So one thing what I really see as an entrepreneur is that it is changing. And the most important thing of this change is not the technology, it is the people that are changing now during this strange, uncomfortable time, of course, but we have to deal with it, that this change is happening. Another thing what I will predict in a way, just by my own experience and vision, is that there will be a lot of data that is now collected or just stored somewhere. And the next thing will be that in the coming time, it is very important to see how we can structure this data in a very easy way. And that can, I think, also help to step by step help the consumer or the employees, etc., to learn really what their needs are, to improve. And also to have a system that we can track real time what the compliance is, real time what the results are. And that can really be a big benefit coming up, as long as we can structure it in an easy way. So one little case, for example, of this smart book we make together with universities is that we can see, for example, in different exercises, how much percentage a certain exercise is correctly answered, how much not, what difficulties exist. So what we can do with this data is make a system that each year we can easily update the material and improve the quality. So it is also linking better to the needs and to the results of the consumers, the students, and the employees. So my two main points are, I think, of this time and presentation is change, and technology will always go rapidly now, but it's, once again, I would like to stress, it's the people that are changing now. And another thing is that during this digital transformation, I would say, is that there will be a lot of data. And I think especially for the industries, for academic world, especially how can we find ways to structure that in very easy ways so that we can actually make a continuous learning system with that in the coming years and improve our products and improve our education for the people. So that is my presentation that I would like to give today and my main message. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih, Dr. Martin Enter. You can speak Bahasa then. Thank you for your enlightening presentation, Dr. Martin. It's about artificial intelligence powered by human intelligence. You may stay in this segment until Q&A session, Dr. Martin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for us to listen to the feedback or comments from the two panelists, Dr. Dian and Dr. Matrisa, in relation with the previous presentation. So once again, as I told you in the beginning, Dr. Dian, Dr. Matrisa, you may give comments or questions related with the presentation from Dr. Jacob and also Dr. Martin. However, before I let you give comments, I would like to read your brief CV first, Dr. Dian. Dr. Dian Budianti, she is currently a Chief Operation Officer in PT Prudential Life Assurance Indonesia. She got a medical doctor degree from University of Indonesia. She got her MBA from IPMI International Business School. And she got her FLMI and FLHC from Loma Institute. And for the next panelist is Medical Doctor Matrisa Hermita. I would like to read her brief CV. Currently, she is a senior lecturer in Faculty of Psychology, Gunadarma University. She is also a Vice Dean Medical Faculty. And in 2019, she was a guest lecturer in Boros University under Linus Palme Scholarship. Her education, she got her Bachelor in Medical Doctor degrees from Diponegoro University. In 2012, she got her master degree in Industrial and Organizational Psychology from Gunadarma University. And in 2016, she got a doctoral program in psychology from Gunadarma University. And recently, in 2020, she got her magister in communication science from Gunadarma University. Dr. Matrisa also involves in several activities. She involves in working group in e-health standardization, Minister of Health of the Republic of Indonesia. She also involves as expert team in Ministry of Communication and Information Technology Indonesia. And she is also a database administrator in URC consultant for MCA Indonesia. And from 2017 until present, she involves as the expert team in Directorate General of Learning and Student Affairs, Ministry of Research, Technology and Higher Education of the Republic of Indonesia. Is that correct, Dr. Matrisa?
Yes.
Yes. Now, we come to Dr. Dian first. The floor is yours, Ibu Dian.
Thank you. Thank you, dear speakers. Your presentations are really wonderful. I think all of us enjoy it, including the audience for sure. allow me to share some slides before I ask some feedbacks. Okay, so hopefully it can show. All right, so basically to give a bit of context, Indonesia is really currently facing difficult situations with this COVID-19. Every day we see like 1,000 new cases coming up, and make us like what 102,000 cases now positive in Indonesia. We also see that unemployment rate is increasing. We see from Bappenas, for example, the National Development Planning Agency is saying that the estimate is 5.5 million people will be unemployed, which is actually an increase from previously 5.28% last year, and it is now like 8 to 9%. This pandemic is also affected at least 7 industries badly, like hotels, restaurant, textile, pharmaceutical, land transportation. And for insurance companies, especially from the life side, the AAGI, the Indonesian Life Insurance Association, has recorded a growth of 4.1% claims and benefits, which is growing in this first quarter of 2020 compared to last quarter last year. So this pandemic has also encouraged awareness of consumers to take healthy foods.
Right.
We also see a survey conducted by Kantar that 90% of consumers is now taking healthy foods. So it's a good thing.
Good effect.
Good effect, correct. Also, we can see people like cycling in Indonesia.
Yes.
People taking traditional herb, probably via online.
Healthy habits.
Healthy habits, yeah. Nielsen also have a data where 23% of consumers are now concerned about health. Compared to previous year, it's like 14%. So there is significance in health awareness. If I see, take a look at what Prudential have, around 90,000 inquiries coming in Prudential, where 10% is related to COVID. So having these difficulties, definitely the insurance industry need to demonstrate commitment to protect the Indonesians amid the pandemic. And I would like later to ask the speakers also whether they have comments on this. But then for insurance industry, currently we see the focus is, for example, first is defining the purpose. So it becomes important for the consumers to understand where the insurance company is during this pandemic. So really have to be with the consumer. So for example, in Prudential, we have our purpose to help people get the most out of life. We are very concerned with health access, affordability, and that's where our focus is. And also we see that being insurance companies, then protection is the thing which our customers are looking for. That's why they are our customers.
Yes.
So really, as insurance, we need to pay claims, respect the policy provisions wherever the policy is met. And then second, we see also that because currently incomes is disturbed, so additional benefits for the customers is surely appreciated. So any additional benefits on top of their policy contract is surely good. For example, like COVID, we give like hospitalization 1 million a day, for example, or things like that. Yeah. Third is the ability to pay premium. I think it's very challenging for our customers now to pay premium. At one point, they know that protection is needed, but then how to pay the premium. So for insurance industry, it is also good if we show that the company is willing to communicate with the customer in case of premium payment flexibility, for example. And then my last point is that as insurance industry also need to work hand in hand with the government. We know that COVID makes the medical profession very challenging, so it's good to support them with coverage for them, probably the APD, alat pelindung diri for the medical professions, As well as in the past, we also like supported the rapid test, so people get screened more.
Okay.
So probably my first question for any of the speakers,
Yes.
because the pandemic looks like will stay for some time, unfortunately. So do you have any other suggestions apart from what we have done currently in Indonesia? Is there any other suggestions how our insurance industry need to anticipate with this change of customer behavior and change of needs? That's my first question. And then we also touching to Mr. Martin presentation on
Yes.
the digital and
Mhm.
AI. We understand that digitization is the way to go.
Right.
Therefore, we can see also in Indonesia there are quite a number of companies already building their digital capabilities end to end. If we refer to life insurance companies, then it means we need to have like 24/7 services. We need to have we need to be available anywhere, everywhere. There should be a tool for a customer to log in and to see the policy because it needs to be self-service. We are also blessed that our OJK is approving the virtual face-to-face.
Okay.
So the sales force is now capable to still sell, although this is pandemic. So all that tools digitally is built.
Yeah.
I can see that also other players are also building. And it's very crucial that the capability to also make the sales force on board.
Right.
Getting training, getting exam, getting licenses, also how customers can submit their claims.
Yes.
So that is, I think, a new norm where the insurance company needs to move to. We can also see that an ecosystem needs to be built. It's if we want this insurance company to be widening their scope, they need to collaborate with other players.
Right.
We in Prudential we have an application which is called Pulse. Pulse is in Bahasa Denyut Nadi. So we hope that it's really the Denyut Nadi, so everyone is like remembering Pulse. In Pulse, we collaborate with quite a number of partners. Like Halodoc, we engage also OFO. We outside Pulse, we also partnering with Tokopedia. And we have that Cekatan, which is the tools for the sales force to sell virtually. So it's like cepat tanpa berdekatan. So it's like fast, but without face-to-face. So we see that this pandemic really accelerate the digital transformation. And it comes to my second question actually to the speakers. Building this kind of infrastructure is not cheap, right? So if the insurance industry needs to like focus or prioritize, probably our speakers can like give advice. What first? Is it building this application, building the AI, building the big data, or what? Just one more slide. Just in case the audience is like, what is Dian talking about Pulse? So this is Pulse by Prudential. You can download it by scanning that QR code. Unfortunately, our speakers cannot download because I assume your number is not Indonesian number. But whenever you have an Indonesian number, you can just download it. Basically, it's an application with AI capabilities. So I really like the Mr. Martin presentation, where the AI, where the customer can chat with this application. So if he is the client is not like healthy, wants to know, is this a symptom of COVID or not, for example, then we have an AI supporting that symptom checker. So this is free for all Indonesians.
Okay.
So anybody can just use it.
Yes.
And the right hand side is actually for our consumers. So that's my questions to the speakers as well. And probably if the speakers can also say whether this kind of application is to be customized. So is the customization the way to go for the new norm? So we should leave all the generic product suits, which we usually is used to. Is it really the new norm needs customization? That's my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dian. Please, Dr. Martin and also Dr. Jacob, you may give answer. Dr. Jacob first.
Yes.
Yes. Ibu Dian already addressed question how to anticipate the development of artificial intelligence.
There are some cases when a person must visit the branches, and we have, for example, in our case, we have developed the technology, quick entry health check system. It is technology which measure the temperature, the body temperature of people before entering to some spaces. Because as I mentioned before, there are some situations when it is necessary that person must visit the branch. And as I mentioned during the presentation, these sectors of financial for example, in Slovak Republic, and I mean in Indonesia too, is changing in some online areas in maximum way, and it means that they prepare new apps, for example, for taking loan, for creating some insurance from online areas. So I think that is the way how to react on these situations. Prepare maximum platforms in online way, and in situations when it's necessary to visiting the branches, there are another solutions, as you can see. For example, quick entry health check system, because the systems is like a prevent before entering to the space, and of course it is monitoring the emotional feedback, so we can detect emotional index from some branches or from some spaces, and we can know how people react on services. So we can combine not only protections of health, but some marketing data. And I'm not sure what is the situations in other countries, but I think that there must be some rules for that, how we can measure, because in our country is general data protection regulations, and these solutions can work with this GDPR.
Yeah, right. Dr. Jacob, thank you very much for your answer. Now we step to the second panelist, Dr. Matrisa. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ikhwan. Allow me to say hello to my friend there. Hello, Dr. Jacob, and then Dr. Martin. Thank you for your time so that we can meet in the Zoom seminar and then we can discuss. So, well, actually, neuromarketing is a kind of new thing in Indonesia.
Yes,
yes, it's really new, and
yes,
and I'm very interested on it.
Yes, me too.
Yeah,
it's quite challenging. Yeah,
yeah,
if it
yeah.
is implemented in Indonesia.
Yeah, yeah, and then my question is raised that maybe Dr. Jacob can answer it later after this session.
Yes.
It's about how to implement, how to start the neuromarketing research, and this really in the particular situation like the insurance situation,
right?
Insurance marketing. I mean, when we talk about the insurance, it's like we gonna buy product that will not instantly we can consume.
Yes.
We didn't expect for anything that losses or we sick or even another disease that we can claim our insurance. it's different. Like we like to buy some consumption product, like
Yes.
we buy Coca-Cola, we can drink also, and we can feel, oh, this is, it
Tasty
tastes like
It
a Coca-Cola. It's a different. So regarding that, regarding the situation, how about the perception about the product itself, the brand awareness, and then and the end will lead to the decision.
Right.
Either we will buy or not.
Yes.
We purchase the product or not. So I think it's a good, that important things to conduct in Indonesia.
Right.
As we know that it's not that easy to find the kind of tools that we use in the neuromarketing. Indeed, we have the EEG, we have the fMRI, but in Indonesia we use it only for the diagnose in some disease, not for the research.
Yeah.
So maybe later on we can discuss with the Dr. Jacob and
Sure.
and also some another things that can be discussed with Dr. Martin about the security, about the data.
Yes.
I think it's a prominent thing as well, because you know, the data branch, you know that now.
Yes.
We are usually hear about the losses of consumer data that will being trade. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can trade in everywhere and then use. So I think it's interesting
Yes.
to discuss. So, but maybe
We still, yes.
So maybe the Dr. Jacob will explain a little bit.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the time is
Yes.
not enough.
Maybe
Yes.
after this time,
Okay.
after this segment, then we can discuss later.
Okay.
Yes. It's yes, Dr. Jacob. It's very interesting to be implemented in Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Dian. Yes. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Dian, Dr. Matrisa.
Sure.
Yes. Do we still have time to open a session for participants? All right. Yes. Now we proceed to the QA session from participants. I invite participants to address questions. Once again, you may click the raise hand feature on your computer or on your gadget screen. And don't forget, later, please mention your name, affiliation, and to whom the question is addressed to. Not yet, yeah? Dr. Matrisa, perhaps you can help me?
No, not yet.
Not yet, yeah? Right.
So maybe later on we have a break now.
All right. For the time being, we have break, and we can continue later after the first segment.
I can also. Can I still answer the question of Budia?
Welcome again to the AAMAI International Webinar. And still with us, Ibu Dr. Dian and also Ibu Dr. Matrisa. We continue the discussion, the very interesting discussion actually. It's about AI. And it seems that Dr. Jacob or Dr. Martin, are you still there?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yes. Probably you are going to give answer to Ibu Dr. Dian question.
Yeah, so I understand the difficulty at the moment that times push the industry to change very fast, and it are massive projects, so there's indeed a lot of investment money involved with that. And I think we have to realize that it's changing month by month. So it goes very fast, also the change. And it hopefully will not last too long, that it is end of the year or somewhere next year that we have the vaccine and things, the whole COVID period comes to a halt. But what is most important that it changes fast now. So what I would advise to do is not invest in too big of a project, but try to learn very fast. So launch smaller projects. Of course, I talk from a background of training or education, and rapidly be able to update them with the data that is collected. So make them better and better and better in the coming time, what you learn, what comes back from the consumer, and be able to do so instead of designing a very large project and having to implement that in the coming months while you finally implemented it during the end of the COVID situation. So that would be one of my advices. And another one is also new times are not only about new technologies or products, but also maybe about new business models. So for example, with what we did with one of our partners is that what we educated, we also related to a new business model for our partners. So that is also something that it is maybe not only thinking in costs, but also thinking of what can this new situation, could it be also a revenue model in a way? So that is another, I think, advice I would have, that you really, for example, the example of why Tesla is so high in value at the moment is that the founder, Elon Musk, he made the designs in such a way that he could update the cars every time very fast and responding to consumers very fast. And that made it the most valuable car manufacturing at the moment in the world. So I think this is, especially in these times, very important. I hope I made myself clear with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Matai.
And then maybe Dr. Jacob question then,
Okay.
because they would like to share, he like to share his experience in develop neuromarketing business.
Yes.
So please, Dr. Jack.
Yes, I am here. Okay, thank you. I will answer on your second question.
Yes.
Yes, I am here. I will answer.
Yes, please.
Neuromarketing can enrich traditional research focus on the needs of clients. For example, when we ask people which product they prefer, biometric methods can help detect their emotional potential. For example, another example is the testing apps, which have to be completely intuitive for user experience and simple to use. Technology is developing very quickly in the world, so I think that every company will try to move online and create apps to make it easy for customers to live in the new normal, which must get used to probably for a longer period of time, it seems. And I agree with Martin that the business can start with the smaller projects.
So, yes, it's okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
So, yeah, the last one. So the question is it possible for us from Gunadarma, or either if you have MOU with AAMAI as well, to conduct research regarding the insurance in your laboratorium? I think it's
of course, yes.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. Okay, see you soon, later.
See you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, maybe now we have a question for our participant here. We have Mr. Atraman Solani. Maybe admin can.
Yeah, Mr. Adraman, you may deliver your question. You may address your question. You may use Bahasa or in English. And then please mention to whom your question is addressed to speakers or to panelists.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pak.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to have a view of this neuromarketing, because conventional method of marketing was using all the five senses between living humans. So yes, anything that is advantageous also has disadvantage. Over the years, I have found that artificial intelligence or even neuromarketing or any scientific field that has developed has benefited, and especially during this pandemic, very true. But under normal circumstances, what is happening is there is a great pressure on the human minds, because the technologies, there is a race between the technologies that is trying to improvise to give better service and convenience. But what I have felt over the years is that the consumers basically, like for example, when you call a call center, and earlier when you dealt with humans, the response was much faster than the new methods of call centers. Sometimes I have even experienced of holding on to 2 hours, and finally there's no conclusion. So thank you, Dr. Martin and Jakob. And I would like to have your view about this advanced technologies. Yes, it benefits the insurance industries, banking and business industries. But I need your input. How would it affect on the human minds as far as health is concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Pak. Yeah, please, Dr. Jacob. Okay, so Dr. Martin.
Thank you, Madam. I clearly feel and see what you mean, and some things do not change for the better, in these. But also, is it really only the technology, or is it why it is implemented that way? For example, that it takes longer, and you know that could be a cost saving. It could not be the technology in that sense. I think in this time, and that's why I also just said to Jan, I think it's very important to look for ways to make it understandable for the consumer, in a way easy to use, that it really benefits, and that you learn to look at the data carefully and see what could I improve for the consumer to make it a bit better each time, instead of making a very big project with a lot of technology, but changes something. But then it could be, like you say, that it's not changed for the better. So I think that is crucial, to listen through this new way of learning, to this new way of working, what consumers really need, and build that up step by step. That would be my first response. And I also think that we have to be always aware, and that was also part of my presentation, it's the power is not the technology, the power is the human. The human is changing at the moment, and in the end it will always be the important part, and not the technology. It is how we implement it. But these times we have to accept it, because we have to stay at home and we have to stay healthy. So some of these technologies will be easy to use, less costly, and benefiting really for people. And that will change fast. People will not go back to the old way once they experience that. So that's my response to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, since we are already out of time, so we would like to close the first segment. Thank you once again to all of the speakers, Dr. Jacob and also Dr. Martin, and also to our beautiful panelists, Dr. Matri Sayarmita. Thank you so much. And also Dr. Dian Budiani. Thank you so much, Ibu, for your bringing your expertise and experience to this webinar. To all participants, thank you for your participation. We will have break for 3 minutes, and we will be right back to the second segment after the break. Please don't go anywhere. I'll see you in the next segment. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello and welcome again to International Webinar of AAMAI, Excellent Service in the New Normal. In the second segment, we have the same as the previous one, 2 speakers. They are Dr. Gideon Mizenui and Dr. Klaus Houken from University of Borås, Sweden. And in studio, we also have 2 handsome panelists. Let me introduce you. Dr. Hastanto S. Widodo. Welcome to studio, Pak Hastanto. And also Dr. Rudy Sohatril. Welcome, Pak Rudy.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. For the first time, there will be a presentation from the speakers, and then it will be followed by the discussion from panelists. And at the end of the session, we give time to the participants to address questions by clicking raise hand feature in your computer screen or on your gadget screen. You may deliver your question in English or in Bahasa. And don't worry, the recorded version of this discussion is also available. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will turn time over to our first speaker, Dr. Gideon Mizenui. And it seems that Dr. Gideon will make a kind of joint presentation with Dr. Klaus Houken. And please let me read their brief CV first. Dr. Gideon is a senior lecturer in informatics, Department of Information Technology, University of Borås. His research focusing on intelligent transport systems. He got his PhD in computer science from Blekinge Institute of Technology, Sweden. And for Dr. Klaus Houken, he is a researcher and senior lecturer at University of Borås, Sweden. Currently, he is a CEO and co-founder of Vision House Zeta System in Bangkok. He got his PhD in computer science and information management from University of Borås, Sweden as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Klaus Houken and also Dr. Gideon Mizenui. The floor is yours.
Let's see here. Okay, everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
All right.
hear you.
Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. Thank you to the organizers of this webinar, to all the staff in Gunadarma University and all the audience here present. My name is Gideon Mizenui, and as mentioned earlier, I work at the University of Borås for the last 5 years, and it is my pleasure to present the talk today, which will be focused on consumer behavior, first from a data perspective. What can we say? What does data say? That's the focus of my presentation, which I will hold together with my colleague, Dr. Håkan Am, who is also here present. My intention is really to look at an overview of a number of case studies from around the world. What does the data say when it comes to consumer behavior? And my hope is that some of these examples would be maybe useful from an Indonesian perspective, that the audience might be able to relate to that you may be able to maybe draw parallels or raise questions as to why is the case here the same or different. So in this talk, I will divide that, we divide that into 4 parts. In the first part, we would discuss about the real reason why we consider a data perspective. We've seen several presenters earlier. They bring forth this idea how you can use data to understand what is going on. I will then go through a series of examples. Some of these would be examples that exist elsewhere, but quite a few of them will come from our research in the University of Borås. Then after that, I would leave it to my colleague who would discuss a couple of examples with the business perspective. And then we would round it up with some suggested ideas or observations where we think this is going. So when we look at it all together, why are we interested in data? Of course, we're interested in data because we can be able to generate facts, and this is knowledge. This knowledge is useful for us to be able to make decisions. However, in order for us to be able to generate knowledge from data, we need to be able to understand the data. We need to be able to, maybe sometimes you hear of the term knowledge discovery. How do we discover new patterns, new trends, new changes, such as those related to COVID, through the use of data? In order for us to do that, we need to be able to consider, we are forced to look not just into one type of data, we are forced to look into different databases generated from different activities, generated from different disciplines. Depending on the kind of data, then we build models that would be able to process the data for us. For example, if the data is talking about numbers, if it's about categories of products or people or categories of objects, if the data is structured or unstructured, if the data is implicit or explicit, all the type, depending on the data we have, we might only work in a certain way, which means we can maybe develop some types of models. Even though the talk is called big data, what is big data? Is it just data for big companies? And the answer is no. Big data is just this information that exists out there, and any company, small or big, can benefit from that data. I would spare you the literature of going into the details of big data, but I would show some examples with the hope that we could understand a data perspective. We could look at this development from a data perspective, in particular, in this era of COVID-19. Last time when I had a presentation at Gunadarma, I mentioned the fact that we should let data speak for itself. But today I say we should use data. Using data might help us to reduce ambiguity, but we also understand that data can be the tool that can easily be misused. For example, let's look at this graph. We see here that if we look at the global development in COVID-19, which is the blue line, we could see that the situation doesn't get any better. According to the blue line, you will see that the cases just keep increasing at a rate that we can even characterize mathematically. On the other hand, if we do not look at the blue line and we look at the yellow line would tell you about the change, the percentage change every day. Just imagine that a politician made a point by using the blue line and another politician makes a point by using the yellow line. Who is right here? The person who says, oh, things are getting normal, let's open up, by using the yellow line, or the person who says, Well, we need to increase lockdown by using the blue line. This is how data may reduce ambiguity, but at the same time can easily be misused. But the other part of it is that we may not be able to answer the questions we're interested in by simply looking at some types of data. In the beginning, I mentioned that we might need to look across different disciplines, look at what the data says. We might need to look across different domains or different dimensions. In order to understand further what is going on here, we will look at different segments of society to see what does the data also say. For example, this is data that has been captured using an app called City Mapper. City Mapper is an app that is used, that has this developed basically, if you want to take public transport, you can go into City Mapper and you write, I'm going from point A to point B. This is data anybody can go in and look at it. It's online, and you could select cities. So I selected 3 cities here to compare: Stockholm, Milan, and Seoul. And what you see here is the number of trips that were recorded by this app between 3rd of February and 20th of July. And what you could see is, for example, the blue line, which suggests Stockholm, you could see about February how things started. Here, a lot of people were going by public transport in Stockholm. Then as soon as the numbers, as they spread in COVID, you can correlate that with what you're seeing on this map from where we see around March, April, when the blue lines start getting up. Then you see the reduction in public transport usage. And you could compare these the 3 cities, and you see that they have a similar trend. Up until July, you can see that more people started to go again by public transport. Milan was one of the hardest hit areas. You can see here that the public transport usage was almost down to 0. So this could tell you one of several things. The recommendations or the lockdowns, the people's behavior, we can infer that from data. Were people respecting the lockdown? Were people traveling, and so on? And so this is not the only way, the only element that might be used to correlate with the previous slide, which shows the development in COVID-19. But we could also look at ride sharing. People who basically book an Uber or a Lyft, why public transport usage was going down. You could also see similar trends in the use of ride sharing. Starting somewhere from late March, there was a drastic reduction of about 19% for Lyft, which is one of the ride sharing companies in the US. You also see the similar trends for Uber. Again, we're looking at the developments in COVID-19 globally, and then we're looking at other data, silo data sources. What do they say? Do they agree with this? And which of the businesses would do better, potentially doing better, is doing better, or is not doing better, and why is that the case? If we look further, not everything goes down because of COVID-19. For example, here is also from an internet source, Cloudflare, which is a company that provides data on the use of internet traffic. And here you can see a couple of countries. At the time that we are experiencing a very grievous situation with COVID-19, with a very high spread rate, the use of the internet rather went up significantly. Of course, this makes sense because people are sitting home. They tend to stream from different internet sources. They tend to use the internet just like we are doing now as maybe the only option. So we see that there are things that maybe get more utilized because of COVID, less utilized because of COVID. But all of these, what do all of these tell us? Another interesting area which also has been used here in Sweden is the use of mobile data. How do we collect this data? What does it tell us? What do we measure? How are people behaving? What can we interpret from that behavior? Well, for the use of mobile data, as some of us here might be aware, is very simple. When you have a cell phone, it gets connected to a mobile tower. So when you're moving around in a geographic area, your cell phone changes mobile tower. This makes it possible to understand, are people moving or they are standing still? This kind of data could also be used in a non-intrusive way to understand if people are responding to a policy, to a recommendation, to a lockdown, and also similar policies. in fact, this was the case, which the data has been used in Stockholm. Again, an example from Stockholm here, from when the government recommended and said, hey, stay home now. Things are not going to get any better. Do not move out and only do it if you must. So what this company did, which is a mobile company, Telia, what they did is that they then used data from people's phones to look at how the mobile phones were changing cells by mapping out the geographic area into square boxes and then being able to track if a phone moves between these different boxes. And what you see here with the pink color here is how people were moving as of 30th of March 2020 compared to earlier, which was about the beginning of March, from the beginning of March to the end of March. And what you see here is that there was a drastic reduction in people moving between the different areas within the Stockholm area. So again, using data which is in a non-intrusive way, you could be able to track the changes that are happening within a limited geographic area. And now let me also clarify one stereotype which has been out there a lot about Sweden. They say Sweden did not have a lockdown and therefore things have been different. Actually, Sweden did have a recommendation and the data suggests that people followed the recommendations without calling it a policy lockdown or something. There are recommendations, and you look at the data, you can see people's movement reducing by more than 59%, in some cases higher numbers. You see the same thing even for other cities such as Gothenburg here. You also see a drastic reduction among different communities, up to about 50% people move less. And this again using non-intrusive data when people move between communities. So what you see here is from one community to another and how the movement was from the 30th compared to how the movement was at the beginning. This sort of data in the previous example showed people who might be moving by cars. They also look at activity changes where they would determine if a cellular phone stays within a certain limited area for over an hour, then is considered to not be active, or if it moves between different segmented areas. And here was the case where they compared the red line with the blue line within Stockholm, and they looked at the people crossing between different segments, and what they could conclude was that there was also a drastic reduction. The red line shows that people were much more still compared to the blue line, which shows where people were moving. You can see also up to 50% reduction in the different activities that people are performing. So the truth here we are trying to do here is what is really consumer data here? How do we use this to understand how companies, how organizations are faring, what policies are organizations on their part using in order to be able to adapt to the changes that we are seeing here? Well, in the case of data, looking at this from a data point of view, consumer data here may concern data that is generated by an individual, you and I, a consumer, that we generate data by conducting some actions or carrying out some actions on the internet. It could be data that involves engagement. We engage in some activity where we leave some data traces in a non-intrusive manner. We might also be able to actually infer behavioral patterns or even attitude, as I've shown in the previous slide. But what does this tell us in the long term? Well, if we can use this data in the perspective of different types of analytics, we can look at it from the web-based activities, such as social media. We can look at pixels, like we've seen in the previous speaker. We can look at contact information. We can use this to be able to trace, like in the case in Israel and other areas where they do contact tracing based on mobile data. We could also look at data from customer feedback. In fact, there are some examples that I would show which has to do with how customers generate text, for example, reviewers, and that text is then used to understand how the customer behaves. There are also dedicated solutions focused on customer software or even transactional information. So this data which tells us these different stories, how do we generate it and what is it that works behind the scenes to generate this. Behind the scenes, without going into further details, I think I mentioned this in my previous talk in Gunadarma, and this is of course no news for people who work with data science. We collect this data which I've shown previously, and then we select the data we are interested in, and of course we transform the data, and then we deploy models on the data. And like I said, the reason we are interested in the data is because we are interested in key information that we cannot generate without the data. But this data would ultimately determine what type of models we are using. This is again just a reminder point for people who are versed with the data science, and just to explain what is behind the statistics or the pictures or the graphs that we see. And these often tend to be referred to as the knowledge discovery pipeline. Using this kind of a framework, there are several things we can do. And I would mention a couple of examples here. Possibly some of us might have heard of market basket analysis. Well, because you bought a coffee, or maybe because you bought cereal, you might need yogurt. Because you bought a specific type of product, you might be interested in a certain type of product. This kind of technology is useful in order to be able to, offer recommendations. Let's say you are in a marketplace and you are shopping. Depending on the product that you pick, in real time, it's possible to suggest product that you might be forgetting or product that you might be interested in. Am I the only person hearing an echo, or is the audio being properly transmitted? I want a confirmation from the panel that there is no echo. Nobody can confirm that? Because I hear an echo of myself. Okay, I assume there's no echo then. All right, there is also another example. So this is a sort of applying the framework that I just mentioned, trying to be able to select the right type of data, pre-process the data, and recommend the products based on these models that focus on market basket analysis. Yet in another example, one might be interested in using determining the models that can be used to effectively process business information. And what do I mean by this? This is each time some of us have received recommendations via emails or maybe advertisements. Okay, the echo is back again. Okay, the echo is back. Or via SMS. In particular, companies that produce products such as clothes. Is the echo? Is it from me or is it from the other end? I still get a lot of echo. All right. I was trying to say in this case, the companies that produce clothing, each time they would send advertisements or SMS advertisement to their clients, and the problem here is what client should receive what message. So in order to support this, one of the PhD students in my research group has gathered a lot of the advertisement that is being sent to customers and has developed a model in which he analyzes the different advertisements and look at the different concepts that are being used with the hope that he can automatically generate the SMS that is necessary for a specific customer base. And in this graph, he was looking at the usage of different concepts within 24 hours of time in order to be able to mine the right concept to be able to send to the right group of customers. Again, this is in line with the framework that I just mentioned, trying to look at a selected set of data, in this case, text data, and mining the patterns that are in this data, basing on these patterns to be able to improve the effectiveness of communicating information, and hopefully to be able to analyze the feedback based on how people purchase. Yet there are several examples when it comes to pricing. The area of pricing, hotels, for example, is one example where you see, particularly talking about the COVID-19 era here, one typical example that has that might be considered actually a success for hotels is time slotting. What does that mean? It means that you go to a hotel, of course, you have a time slot when you should check in. You have a time slot when you should go to the restaurant and have your breakfast and so on. So what effect does this have? It makes it possible for these businesses to reduce their own curve in the same way that we've talked about curve for hospitals during the COVID-19. Hotels are not the only people that are testing slotting. You also find it also in mobility in terms of air travel, use of several different services where they want to avoid the peak loads. So time slotting has become one of the key components that suggests that we haven't actually utilized it the way we can, because now we end up with a situation where we are not understaffed or overstaffed, and the customer is more satisfied. In the area of energy as well, we are also seeing several examples, particularly in electricity and oil market, where pricing has also been very much dynamic. Finance is another area where in the stock market, you also have dynamic pricing. And again, in the area of COVID-19, you see that different strategies are being deployed. I would show some of the examples here related to energy. But before that, I'm getting a lot of echo again. It goes away and then it comes back. I think somebody is skipping 2 microphones. All right, here's another example where we are looking at editorial content and calculating the churn rates and trying to minimize churn. Maybe for those who might not be familiar with that, churn is just how to estimate the number of customers that subscribe, say, to a digital service at the beginning of a period and the number that you have at the end of the period. You want to be able to maintain as many stable customers as possible, because if you only look at the people subscribing at the beginning, you might turn to take policies or decisions based on that. Maybe you have a certain subscription rate, but how many of them actually stay through? Maybe within a year, it could be a newspaper or any other internet content. And there is work ongoing in how to measure churn, how to minimize churn. And one of the students working with this is called Helena Lovstrom within the industrial graduate school on digital retail. And this was also the case with the previous PhD student that I mentioned, although I didn't say that. We have an industrial postgraduate research school on digital retail. And we have in that school, maybe 8 PhD students, and some of them working with different directions. Here is one of the examples which has to do with reduction of churn. Yet in another highlight, another example, here we have students that are working, or a student, this one is a PhD student of mine, trying to optimize and drive sales across different channels by personalizing recommendations, particularly looking into the use of implicit user data. Implicit user data here is data that you would leave on the internet without actively supplying that data. Let's say you go into the internet and you select a product, that becomes a data point. Let's say you bookmark a product, that becomes a data point, or a wish list. You put something on your wish lists. If you return a product, you make an order and you send it back or you keep it, that is also data. This is non-intrusive, and using this data, it can be possible to monitor your behavior. Based on your behavior, it can be possible to make recommendations on the kind of product that you most likely will not return back, which is the problem in this case within the fashion industry, that they have up to 30% of returns. If you can only develop a model that can reduce these returns, you could be able to significantly improve their profit margin. In another project yet, which I'm involved with, which I'm leading, is a project on the detection of faults by use of data from heating homes. We're looking at data from, say, a couple of hundreds of buildings or thousands of buildings, and this data is nothing but saying that the heating that was received in this building over a period of time, we're taking timestamps of the different energy supply every hour. The energy supply can be measured in terms of the volume of water, in terms of the kilowatt of energy, in terms of the supply return temperature, and so on. in this particular graph that I'm showing you, we're using that data to say, could we be able to determine anomalies? What are the different anomalies in the data? What do these anomalies say? Do these anomalies correspond to faults? What kind of models do we use? Here, we are looking at kilowatt hour on this axis, and on this axis is a time horizon. This is just a small example to show that the models that I have developed in order to detect anomalies, and not just to detect, but to also label what kind of anomalies there are, and also to test this on different types of data set, which I have presented in a conference just as recent as last week. Again, why am I showing this? I'm highlighting, maybe for this example, not specifically for COVID-19, I'm highlighting how we can infer information based on the different types of data, everything from numerical data to categorical data to text data that characterize the different examples that I've shown here. So I'm going to, at this point, maybe ask Dr. Håkan if he's here. Maybe he might have some more to add to some of the case studies, especially focusing on the business angle to show what are the things we have experienced here with respect to COVID-19. What is our take on the observations of what is going on around the world in China, in the US, and so on? If Dr. Håkan is there, he can take over.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gideon. So I would like to elaborate a little bit on a few of Dr. Gideon's points here, and he starts with a very interesting graph about showing Corona COVID statistics in two different ways, which is quite interesting. And we have a really good case here in Sweden, which happened a couple of weeks ago, when we dramatically increased the number of wider corona testing in the population. Obviously, when you test more, you find more confirmed cases of corona. That alarmed the World Health Organization to the point where they put us in a high risk, as a high risk country, where actually the fact of the matter is, at that time when they did that, our number of new cases and new deaths has actually decreased by 75%. They actually upgraded us from a medium level corona country to a high risk COVID-19 country. Secondly, I would like to connect a little bit further to what Dr. Martin mentioned earlier today about human intelligence. And what we can see in the data very clearly is, for example, the software we are using at the moment, Zoom. I think people that invested in that company a few months ago, they are very, very happy now, because they have, I don't know, they have decreased the level of business from being a very small actor. They are become a main global player with a fantastic development. So I'm sure they are not pleased with the corona and the COVID situation itself, but for their business, it's definitely been very, very, very favorable. And another example is the education business, if you wish, or the way of delivering education. In Sweden, we have seen that in just a few days, from where we went from doing fully campus education to being basically purely distance learning and online learning, we have developed more in a few days than we have in the last 10 years earlier when it comes to using Zoom and different types of video conferencing tool and recorded lectures and so forth. Thank you very much, Dr. Gideon. Please carry on.
Oh, I probably was muted. Sorry. So I was saying that.
Yeah.
I was saying that when we look at the data as well from the perspective of sales, you could see as well that for some products, the changes that have occurred from March have been good news. For others, it's been terrible news. For example, you can see here, beauty and personal care has become an issue. Perhaps people have more time they can do, so the sales jump up. Clothing, shoes, and jewelry, look at what is happening. It's not so good news for them. In particular, I think I've seen in the newspapers jeans, for instance, the sales have plummeted quite a lot. The reason being that people want to use comfortable clothes when they sit home. Groceries have gone up, pets has gone up, and so on and so forth. So what do they say? Well, we could see again, supporting the graph that was shown there, that graph transmits in different ways to different activities in the society. Also, if you look at China, for example, where you had this event starting in China quite early, you could also see across different types of businesses the different changes that took place. Very good news for some brands, terrible news for some brands. Again, up and down, the landscape is completely disruptive. Here, this graph shows retail activities around the world. We're looking at countries, what different product or how active different part of the world are with respect to digital retail. We're comparing, say, North America, Europe, and the APAC countries with respect to the rest of the countries. What the point with this graph is that, again, April, March, you can see significant jumps showing now when we lock down, there's a lot of retail going on, a lot of activities going on the internet compared to maybe when we start to open up in July. What am I trying to say in this presentation? Well, COVID-19 will result to significant long-term and short-term changes, both for businesses, but also for us as individuals, both in terms of business models, but also in terms of behavioral threats. The real question is, what changes do we expect? Which of these changes are going to be short-term? Which of these changes are we going to turn around and do business as usual? Which of these changes can we actually build on to say that these will be permanent? I think here I can also leave Dr. Håkan to come in here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Gideon. So what we can see here is that without understating, mobility has obviously affected the whole world dramatically. But we do see and we do expect that it is difficult to change these old habits, and probably things will return to normal within next year or year after. Secondly, internet traffic will continue to increase, obviously through the lack of mobility, through the lack of being able to meet physically. Internet traffic has increased dramatically. And we have, if you look at my own company, I have a consultancy business doing outsourcing solutions in Thailand. The customers are needing us more than ever. If we look at the area of education, same thing. We are more depending on the digital tools more than ever, and we do think that a lot of these things will remain. When it comes to online e-commerce, as Dr. Gideon mentioned before, we have seen dramatic changes in, for example, grocery, fresh food shopping, whereas this area, at least in Sweden and a number of European countries, have been growing very, very slowly. I know that Mathem.se, which is one of the major players in Sweden, which are online grocery only, they have increased their sales by 400 or 500% during this period. And we do believe that this is not going to go away entirely, because a lot of people that were highly unlikely, meaning elderly, for example, that were highly unlikely to do grocery shopping online, are suddenly very big customers, because they have been very much self-isolated now for many, many months. The we see time slotting in order to avoid physical congestions when we slowly are opening up the world. There was one example, we saw this recently in the media in Sweden and by our own experience, where when you're going to have breakfast in a hotel, you actually, the day before, you need to book a time. You need to book a time slot that said that you're going to have breakfast. Are you going to have breakfast by 6:30 to 7, or would you prefer to have breakfast later on at 10 to 10:30 and so forth, in order to avoid congestion and avoid too much physical contact. This will help. We also do believe that companies now through this will learn how to load balance in terms of when you receive bookings, and you can probably give discounts in less attractive hours, and that this will increase dramatically and have increased dramatically to avoid too much physical contact and congestion with people, but that this will actually some of these ideas and solutions will remain also after when the corona disaster is gone.
Okay, so with that, I think some references, and we will come to the end of our short presentation here, and we will give the word back to the hosts, and hopefully answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Terima kasih.
Studio, we already have Dr. H.S.M. Widodo and also Dr. Rudy. We are going to discuss with them in relation with the previous presentations. Before I give the floor to both of them, I would like to read the brief CV of Dr. H.S.M. Widodo first. Dr. Hastanto S.M. Widodo currently is a President Director of PT Asuransi Bintang Indonesia. His education, he got his bachelor degree in Information Technology from University of Gunadarma. His master degree is from Curtin University of Technology, Western Australia, majoring in telecommunication and networking. And his doctorate degree in Information Technology from University of Gunadarma. He is also the chairman of AAUI and also the chairman of Dewan Asuransi Indonesia. Thank you very much, Dr. S.M. Widodo. Now let me read the brief CV of Dr. Rudy Sohatril. Dr. Rudy Sohatril, he got his bachelor degree from Gunadarma University, majoring in Information System, and his master degree he got from Erasmus Mundus Master in Computer Vision and Robotics, Heriot-Watt University, Scotland, Universitat de Girona, Spain, and Université de Bourgogne, French. And his doctorate degree, majoring in Information Technology, he got from Gunadarma University, Indonesia. Now, I will give time first to Dr. H.S.M. Widodo. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may, let me please give me an opportunity to take new frontier. So, if I may, please, may I share my screen?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I plan to give the big conceptual framework for the artificial intelligence and big data, especially for the insurance industry perspective. Accenture Economic Metrics model predicts that there will be a 17% increase of revenue and 7% of employment for companies that embarks in the human-machine collaboration with AI in 5 years. While most insurance executives believe and committed that it is a strategic matter, most of them still think that the employee and workforce is not ready for it. Surprisingly, most employees are having a good attitude toward AI and also eagerly developing their knowledge and skill on that particular area. Regardless of the strategic belief from AI from many executives, not many investment has been done in this area. In this teaser slide, I mean, if you may say, the screen show the teaser slide. The teaser slide shows that on the left-hand side, it's actually show the, sorry, oops. Oh, sorry, back. Okay, this teaser slides actually showing up. If I may, showing the my screen, please, my presentation. Yeah. This is the teaser slide show you the current AI level of capability. On the left-hand side, this person does not access website actually demonstrate the quality of Cornell University style Gen 2 generative adversarial network neural network model image generation, which is creating lively image from out of a person out of thin air. While on the right-hand side is actually the OpenAI capability that able to generate sentence out of a contextual basis. You can go directly to the site point out in this presentation. Okay. The implementation of so many AI applications in our life and business, it was mostly because of the progress that happening in the graphical processing unit or GPU technology. With hundreds or even thousands of small parallel processors, the simulation of virtual neurons and synapses in real time has made possible in the almost real time. The effective processing parallelism not only help us into going deep neural network inferencing, but also simplified and expedite the neural network training process with a very huge data or big data. Because of neural network was not programmed, but rather trained or using a data set, the size, the volume, and the data quality dictates the quality result of neural network being trained. This is the area where the new data scientist capability will play key roles as well as new exotic AI supercomputer to execute the rigorous training process. You don't have to be a data scientist to take immediate benefit from AI, as there are many generic neural network models ready to be used as either for fee or for free or for a fee. I hope you don't mind with my fun research attire in this example, which is actually demonstrate image classification capability of the free Google Net, which is identified positively my wife's cat as well as my son's electric guitar. On the right-hand side, the facial recognition model had enabled me to actually remove the programming complexity and develop a facial recognition or access control only like within 10 minutes. Something that I could only dream about like a couple of years ago. For insurance industry, there are so many AI as a service which could be used immediately 24/7 contact staff, and it's already communicating in Bahasa. The example on the left is actually the one belongs to BAR, and then it was purchased as a service from Kata AI. Kata AI is actually a local Indonesian AI for service provider. There are also an open source AI frameworks which effectively removing the entry barrier for insurance industry to take immediate benefit in areas such as digital marketing, fraud management, underwriting, and customer service. I will also recognizing the contract center telemarketing operational area with the speech recognition and natural language processing that will automate the post-sales quality control process. Those processes was previously is always the backlog in telemarketing operation, especially in the sales legal script enforcement. Behavior signal processing and emotional recognition will improve the sales conversion rate and decrease burn costs due to the lengthy non-productive calls. Perhaps in the not so distant future, the real lifelike deep learning voice synthesis, like the one in Amazon called Poly, natural language processing, and the better language model like GPT-2, we might soon have a pure AI telemarketing making calls to our customers. I personally have vision that someday our insurance industry will have a sufficiently large database to train a communal AI model for pricing and disaster management. For that, AIUI is already initiated a baby step with their AIUI geospatial risk database. While on the brainware, I'm not really afraid. As you might already know, even though that Google have a Bangkit, which is actually an exclusive machine learning academy in Indonesia with hundreds of students already. I also understood that UG is also the first institution that own AI NVIDIA supercomputer in a box and a very active educational program and research on this particular area. All of those will help the insurance industry with our next frontier in the not so distant future, such as use-based insurance or insurance on demand, which was forecasted to be the next big thing. Those areas will require us to have a geospatial artificial intelligence in order to be successful. Satellite data-driven crop index insurance, such as in the working example, is a draft insurance in Africa, is also a good example. The implementation of such model in Indonesia will not be very far, as AIUI is currently talking with Mars as a co-buyer from farmer in Sulawesi. Furthermore, some actuaries also start embarking in active artificial intelligence for their routine tasks, and even joke about that AI is actually an abbreviation of actuarial intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. Hope that will actually give you some background or perspective on how we actually could enable take benefit from AI. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hassan Widodo, for your elaboration about the implementation of AI in the insurance industry. Now, let me step to the next, Dr. Rudy Sohatril, please.
Thank you, Pak Iwan. So, if you are talking about artificial intelligence or big data, like 10 years ago, it's still like a dreaming, right?
Yes.
But nowadays, AI is happening now with nowadays. AI can be implemented even in just in the small devices. But there are several problems that we have to take into account. We are talking about big data. We have, they call it 4V. The first is about the volume. So if we are talking about big data, we are talking about a large of amounts of data. And then we have to take care of that with its variance and with everything inside of the data. And then the second one is variety or variance of the data. Because if you see like usage of social media, a lot of data with a lot of variance that we have to process. And also velocity. Velocity, talking about how fast we want to process the data. And with nowadays technology, I think it is, I mean, what's the word? It's very easy now. For example, with our gadget, we can do the face recognition. If we are talking this about 10 or 20 years ago, we need to have a really, really big machine in our rooms. And then the third is veracity. This is about the accuracy and the integrity and trust of the data. And I think about this, I would like to ask to Gideon as well, or Mr. Hakan, how can we make sure the data integration in this big data area? Because we know that Gideon have said that there is several types of data. The first is about the PIN or personal information data, and how we can make sure that our data is secure in this big data area. I think that's my point I would like to ask.
Thank you, Dr. Rudy. Yes, now I will be back to Dr. Gideon. Are you still with us, Dr. Gideon?
Yes, I'm with you. I can hear you. Yeah. Yeah, I think there are two parts in the
Yes.
question you've raised, and of course we all know that these are open issues. And one is how do you protect personal data, which is a problem that the whole world is grappling with. Thinking about GDPR and related measures in the US and other areas. And the second is really how do you make use of these multidimensional, diverse data from different sources, different data lakes, and different types of data. I mean, it is not a question that, as you would expect, that would have a single answer, but there are different models. For example, there is something called transfer learning. We are also seeing ways of not just transfer, integrating the data, but actually combining knowledge by training models on different types of data. We are also seeing, and what you've raised actually is a key challenge for many machine learning models. There are very few models that can actually be able to integrate data, different types of data, and train on them at the same time. Rather, you find a situation where specific models are deployed. For example, you have just what the previous speaker just mentioned here. You could have what's it called? You have neural networks that can be able to process maybe natural language, and then they are not necessarily suitable for processing maybe numerical data. In fact, I know in Gunadarma, you're working a lot maybe with image processing using deep learning. We are here trying to also use similar tools. We're using deep learning to look into numerical data, in this case, behavior of buildings, the same systems too that you're trying to use in looking at behavior of humans, which produce different kind of data, or as we saw in the previous case, maybe reading, analyzing feelings or facial behavior or eye tracking and so on and so forth. I mean, I think my answer to your question is really that there isn't a single specific answer on how to integrate the different types of data and train maybe a single model. But rather we have different types of models learning different types of aspects, and maybe as humans we're trying to stitch that together and see what that means. I don't know if that is a good enough and acceptable answer. Do you have something to add, Håkan?
Well, yes. Well, Dr. Rudy, nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I think you raise a very important issue here, and a very good point actually, because we are moving to something very, very dramatically, not to mention how quickly it happened now due to Corona crisis. It's very easy to forget the information security aspects. And as Dr. Gideon was on to here, it's actually not so easy to have a simple answer to that. But I, just like yourself, also have very serious concerns about the data we have and how well we're protecting them. And especially as we have organizations and companies owning or believe that they're owning a lot of personal and sometimes very sensitive data. On the one hand, we have very strict rules on the GDPR of what data an organization can collect. At the same time, we know that a lot of these data that are supposed to be sensitive or classified data, Facebook already know this about us, even though it's supposed to be sensitive and protected due to the ability and the AI capability of the data they keep. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Håkan. I think this is a interesting matter to talking. I mean, about the privacy, even though Gideon have said about GDPR, maybe our audience don't know what is GDPR is. GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation. It is all of country, I think, have adopted this.
Yes.
And also in Indonesia. But in terms of security, I think I just want to say that the weakest link is in the brainware. I mean, in the human. So we have to take care the data by ourselves. Because with big data and artificial intelligence, all things can be done. I mean,
well,
yeah, maybe pass.
I think Indonesia is actually data scientist heaven, because you actually get all the data anywhere from.
Freely, right?
Not really. It's actually quite cheap in Tokopedia or even Bukalapak. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you could have a national identification verification of data. Immediately you can purchase it at less than 100,000 rupiah from Tokopedia. That's the big problem that we currently have here. But I think from the good perspective that I mean, we are in the AAMAI seminar, so mostly it's actually about insurance people coming in. There are a lot of use that there are might be available there immediately for us to, if we would like to embark and then start our journey in this new frontier. And that's really so. But I think if I may, I would like to ask a question to Dr. Gideon regarding about the complexity of understanding the neural network based on the training result of a data, because in insurance industry there's actuarial science that they work that have to be explainable. On the other side, the neural network and data science model actually able to perform significantly better than those linear modeling. But the explanation how those model actually behave or visualization of the network model itself is not fully understood. Is there any kind of technology or medium, or you had mentioned the transfer learning, right? So I haven't my oldest daughter is actually writing a journal about that. So I really like the idea, but I think on the is there any kind of techniques in data science that specifically which enable us to better understood what is really happening in the neural network with a better, clearer picture, so everybody could have a better understanding, on how we actually working.
Yes, I will start by making a comment on the previous question. Something that skipped my mind was that there is also some development with respect to privacy and security on the digital space, where you have rather than me accepting to your end user license agreements as a product or software owner, I define my profile, and for every software that I use, if it met my criteria, then it can execute on my computer, on my hardware, on my mobile phone, or anything else. But that's one area that I hope that eventually can actually be reality. So I'm aware of what you do with my data. I said, this is what you should do with my data. If your software met that requirement, then I can use your software. Then it can execute on my system. But that's one part. The other part is actually the black box nature of neural networks. And if there is any possible sign that we will be able at some point to be able to put that box or to uncover what is going on in neural networks. And here the question really is an interesting question, particularly from you, working with Again, I get a lot of echo. I don't know why. Is this? Again, this has to do with me. I don't know why. Is this? So how has to do with me? How do you ensure a system that is a black box? I mean, starting from there, how do you ensure a car driven by a software? How do you ensure a car driven by a software? Could somebody help me with this echo? It's a little bit annoying. Okay. So I was asking a question of how do you ensure a driverless car, for example? In an event of an accident, should the car go left or right? And if there is, if it goes left, it hit a child who is about 5 years old, still have about 70, 80 years to live. Or if it goes right, it hits somebody or two people who are about 80 years old. I mean, these are questions, as you and I know, has no answers. At this point in time, if there is any technology whatsoever for us to be able to understand what is happening when you train a deep neural network? Is it possible to unpack what is there? And the simple answer is that I think this is also part of the reason why we are seeing more and more focus on explainable AI, which is the industry saying that, hey, we cannot just believe in this, we need to know what's going on. The answer is, of course, simply no. Right now, there is no way or no existing technologies that one could easily turn to and say that, okay, the model decided to do this because of that. And the simple answer is just because neural networks are behaving in the similar way that we build computers and in the internet as a whole. It's a combination of several input that at the end, the combinatorial numbers are so high that we cannot put a finger on it. We cannot put a finger exactly on what specific part of that system would lead to a dramatic change. Once you've trained a model, a neural network model, you could be able to fine-tune parameters and play with that, but you really never have specific knowledge on that. This is the most specific limiting, or in terms of sensitivity analysis, this is actually where, let's say it's a building, this is where most of the weight of the building is standing. This is where most of the weight of the building is standing. So as far as I know, I don't see there is a way yet, but there is also an interest on I don't see there is a way yet, but there is also an interest and hopefully on maybe with transparent learning we could be able to
AI, and hopefully
deconstruct what happens in the neural network. We could be able to deconstruct what happens in the neural network.
Well, that's the very good explanation. I mean, I like the ideas of the neural network. It's actually just a statistic parameters with multiple parameters and infinite, perhaps, if we could call it, possibilities of combinatorial. So yeah, it's true. Also on the insurance of the AI products, because now a lot of AI products, it's actually a quite interesting, a lot of interesting discussion about, yeah, how you actually insure a self-driving car, or how you ensure that the AI model will only recognize your face, the owner face, and not recognizing other people's face and then allowing access for them. So yeah, I think this is still a very new frontier and everything. And then I think in Indonesia, I'm really hoping that the insurance industry, because we have the financial background and support, we will able to drive this technology further, and I hope that we will performing better in the financially.
Yes, I do agree, Pak Hastanto. And it is back again to the authenticity of data.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to ask you how the company utilize, to handling this big data, especially with to make sure the data integration and authentication of the data.
Well, I mean, to ultimately authenticate the data, you can go to blockchain, but the processing itself is very, very painful. But I think, but for insurance itself, that we have like a low tier company, which is actually doing a summation of data. So
Just aggregating data,
just aggregating
yes.
everything. And then we have like insurance company already like writing data as per risk basis, per transaction basis. For instance, in my company, for one policy, it will create around like 400 to 600 entry journals. So it's a kind of big data, yes, because now even we have like around like almost 5 terabyte of data, financial journal that later on could be used for financial training of the AI model. But not yet, we haven't have the persons, because not yet people already graduate for the AI education. I have to learn it by myself.
So in the future, with all of those big data, you can predict, right?
Yes.
And
Hopefully, and then it will have a better pricing model.
That's right.
I'm hoping that someday we will have the AI-driven pricing model or disaster recovery model that could actually dispatch people to area which subject to like more severe impact of the one disaster area. That's a vision. Hopefully, could be materialized within like 3 or 10
Yes.
years.
Yes.
That's interesting. And of course, we have to
Yes.
also make sure the rights of the data.
Yes.
And at the end, we will avoid the legal things
Yes.
regarding to the data. I think
Yeah.
that's the most important thing to.
Yes.
Yeah. Fine.
All right.
Thank you.
Confidentiality must be kept, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the big challenge. Now.
Yes.
Of course.
Okay. Hold on for a while. We proceed to the.
Yeah, there is a.
Yeah, shall we move to QA session?
Yes, there is
right.
one raised hand here.
All right. Yes. Now, once again, we invite participants who are going to address questions. You may mention your name, affiliation, and also the speakers that are going to be asked. Right. Yes, it seems there has been one person, one participant, Pak Rudy. Could you please help me?
Yes, it is. I think it's the same participant.
All right.
With the first segment.
Okay.
Yes, please, Mr. Atmaram Tolani, you might ask the question and then please tell us to whom the question will be delivered.
This is regarding Dr. Gideon
This is regarding
Dr. Gideon mentioning that auto driver insurance, let's say automatic mobile. It's echoing just now, right now. It's echoing just now, Okay. Anyway, was mentioning. All this is related to, again, we are talking about insurance related to, again, we are talking about insurance industry has to have statistics, basically past experiences, the height of risk. Anyway, now height of risk will depend now on the statistics and data. Yes, on the statistics and data. Yes, with this AI, what is going to happen is there are going to be a lot of changes in laws and let's say marketing strategies, etc. For example, I see that in future there may be a very high rise on delivery of products via drones. Now, when the drone system is more encouraged, for example, or used, definitely even they would be opting for insurances. So yes, I would say that these types of strategies and webinars are encouraging to every human being for every field, basically. Back again, but we are, as humans, we are actually trying to deal with artificial intelligence more than interacting with human lives. But well, that's the truth for now. And thank you for allowing me to give some comments. Basically, that was the answer that I could feel about regarding the driverless cars. Thank you. Good evening. And once again, good evening to everyone. All the best.
Thank you for the comment. I assume that wasn't a question. I assume that wasn't a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a comment.
That's a comment. Okay, Pak Rudy, is there any more participants?
It seems that no one.
Okay, so we can continue the discussion then.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yes. So, Pak ASM Widodo, then actually, what is the major factor that supports the success of big data in anticipating the changes of consumer behavior in new normal, especially in insurance industry?
Well, I think a lot of there are neuroscience, right? There are behavior signal processing.
Right.
I used to have like a call center of 2,000 people.
Right.
The quality control processes actually will kill you because you have to actually listen to all conversation.
Of course.
With the now deep learning signal processing and behavior monitoring, there will be actually automatically after every call session there will be an automatically transcript created, and then even the legal part of the telemarketing sales could be immediately was put in written.
Right. Yes.
That's the current technology is already here for that. So we have to think about the how that we doing business. Like currently we still have so many people working manually to doing those kind of stuff.
Yes.
Tasks by person. So we should always thinking AI of it will enable human us to do a better job rather than just waiting or trying to listen a conversation and verify the legal compliance on that. So I think there will be a lot of new area for us in insurance to be able to work with. But one thing about the relation of the data itself with the insurance industry. Insurance industry is an industry which was based on statistical data. So we calculate price based on the experience of the claims, and then the premium was actually decided on this because of we actually utilizing so many data to calculate those premiums. And then surprisingly, the most extensive statistical technique that we use is a stochastic process in insurance. So if the actuary are using the stochastic is the master in calculating and everything. And then well, AI used a stochastic process in its training process. So the back propagation, actually utilizing a stochastic process to be able to adjust all the synapses parameter, right? So having the same things that we using we work with, I mean, I think insurance industry should be the one that use AI lah.
Yes.
Because of the economic size it was there, and also the impact is there. So
okay.
Really,
and
really
it is
hope.
also about velocity, right? I mean, how fast you can process the data. It will determine you whether you are a winner or not.
Yeah. Well, previously before COVID, actually I sold around 120,000 policy every month. That's only for policy with like 20,000 rupees or 30,000 rupees. But after COVID, it goes into like only like 20 or 30,000. So yes, it was there. So
yes,
and then you cannot do that based on people actually working in Jakarta, which is 4 million UMR. So we have people moving out to Jogja and Solo and doing the manual job over there.
So in terms of technology, the thing that have been said by Astanta, for example, the call center.
Yes.
It using natural language processing, right? It is the technology which can process. We can take the meaning of what people say, right? And also for voice recognition is also happening now. Yeah.
So I mean the chatbot. I mean the capability of the chatbot. You see what the BRI, the traditional bank, have. The chatbot is remarkable. I mean you don't have to have people to able to interact with your customer on so many things. So insurance actually been able to do that. And then I'm just looking at Amazon Polly. I mean it is like 45 type of voice, man and woman, on 24 language. So if you actually couple those natural language processing and with the chatbot, also with the new language model like we have in OpenAI, and then combine that with Amazon Polly, then you will have an agent calling out, making sales to everybody, and then it's totally machine.
It is
So
automatically.
is it the question? Is it well ethical or not? Then later on.
What if you want to have a really good AI? You have to have like a prior knowledge, right?
Yeah.
To build the AI,
Yeah.
and then the big data. That if you have already a lot of data, don't waste it.
Yeah.
We can read the pattern inside it, and then we will have AI to solve that.
Or we could actually just purchase a pre-trained model,
Yes.
and then implement what we call it the transfer learning.
Yes,
Based
that's
on
right.
the data. So you will actually have a basic model, say for recognition, then just train it to recognize my
That's
face.
right.
So that's
It is interesting. Right?
it's
Yes.
interesting.
Very
So
interesting. Yeah, Dr. Hastanto and also Dr. Rudy. I think we still have one more question to Dr. Hokan. Dr. Hokan, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Now, I have one question for you. What is your insights on the implementation of big data or AI in developing countries in Asia? Because you have experience in Bangkok, right?
Yes. Well, absolutely. I think actually, yes. Well, absolutely. I think actually, I see a lot of opportunities. I see some of the development happening slightly slower. For instance, in Thailand, and I see opportunity to learn from some of our successes, and maybe even more importantly, to learn from some of our mistakes in terms of how to use the big data, the data analysis possibilities, and so forth. And one thing that we have realized sort of the hard way in some cases is it's not all about big data, it's about right data, which not how much data can we get, because that's obviously a lot, but which data do we want? And we should not just blindly look at the data that we have at hand. We are actually have a responsibility to impact which data, which type of data do we want to collect.
Thank you, Dr. Hokan. Pak Rudy, is there any more participant who is going to address
No,
question?
I think it is
No
not.
more, yeah?
Yes.
Right.
I
I think
just want
that's
to
all for the
I may just want to
interactive
add,
discussion.
I may just
All
want
right.
to
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr.
with
Hastanto,
pleasure.
Dr. Rudy.
Thank you,
Thank you
Pak
so much
Iwan.
for
Thank you.
being with us. Before we close this webinar, once again, we are on behalf of the committee, would like to say thank you so much to Dr. Gideon, Dr. Klaus Hokan, Dr. Hastanto, Dr. Rudy, for bringing expertise and experience to this webinar. To all participants, thank you for your participation. And the committee will send your certificate to your registered email. Now we have photo session. Ladies and gentlemen, the webinar is about to end. Hopefully, the seminar will give insights to all of us, especially in the insurance industry in Indonesia. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Ibu Rektor of Gunadarma University, Professor Margianti, Bapak Imam from AAMAI. Thank you to all of the speakers, Dr. Jacob, Dr. Martin, Dr. Gideon, Dr. Klaus Hokan, and also the panelists, Dr. Matrisa, Dr. Dian, Dr. Hastanto S.M. Widodo, Dr. Rudy. Thank you to all of the participants. Goodbye, everyone. Stay healthy and stay safe. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a nice day.
Waalaikumsalam.